again by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani. Around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal. Perry in the face, 1-1. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
Hey everyone, it's the Pucks and Brews episode, very special episode as Ed is angry throwing things around in his Canadian studio apparently. I mean, my ears are about to explode there for a second.
I can't hold on to my phone. I just damn it.
This is a very special one. All three of us are here. It's the Behind the Paywall episode on Twitch. This is our Pucks and Brews show. Everyone show what they're drinking as we do. This is one of my favorite breweries, Deschutes Brewery. It's Indian Pale Ale, fresh haze, very yummy. Very, very good. Recommend them.
Yeah, I got one of my classic. I actually got a bunch of different ones, but I'll be starting with the brewery Horchata, or Horchata, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But 7.2%.
Someone correct him, please.
It's Horchata. I know it's Horchata, but I'm white, so I say Horchata.
He's like, I want the beer that tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I should have tried that when I was down there because it does not sound like it would be good. From what it's only from what I've heard from Pat too.
It depends if you like cinnamon. If you don't like cinnamon, then you're not going to like it. It's kind of like a cinnamon beer.
I like it on draft. I can't do it out of the can. Out of the can, it's tough.
I can if I take it out of the can. I'll agree with you there. It's weird. In the can, it does not have the same taste as when you pour it into a glass. But once you pour it in a glass, it's good to go, which I'm now realizing I do not have one.
You can't wait to drink it now.
Oh, good. But if I want to, I also have Hoegaarden. That's a wheat beer that I always like. I like wheat beers. And then I figure since it's extra special, I'll probably take a shot of Jameson.
Some J-Lo to kick it off.
Just so I'm extra funny to myself.
There you go. That's the way you do it. Eddie, what do you got, my friend? We can't see you because we can't. But
as per usual, I have nothing because the preparation I had for the show wasn't. It got derailed per se today. So I did not have time to go get anything. I'm letting some people down because I told people I would be on the show. But
oh yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, Eddie's drinking on this Pucks and Brews show." Everyone's excited. Jay and I both were like,
"No, I don't think there's enough mango cart."
I fully planned on it, and then things went.
And then it snowed. Today. Oh, question. Let's do this. Jay, do you remember? As long as we've been doing our Patreon Pucks and Brews show, how many times? This is a quiz. How many times has Eddie drank on the show?
I'm gonna go with 2 times.
No,
maybe 3.
I think it's been 3.
I think
3.
Yeah, it was either 2 or 3.
It's 5 because we've done 2.
It's 3. We did 1 here.
2 there. We did 2 there.
No, not
the first time. We did the first time I came down in October. We did 1, and then when I came down in March, we did another 1, and then I did at least 2 when I was in Sudbury.
You did 1 when you weren't here.
No, because he had the leftovers the second time, remember?
Yeah.
He's like, all I got is this leftover stuff and the stuff I hate. Some, like, fusion, like...
But I think he showed it, and I don't think he ever actually drank it.
We can't see, so our are the only ones who know.
So we only know about
it's
2,
4.
so I was
it's
right.
Definitely 4. And we've only done like maybe 8 or 9, so it's
19.
at least 50%.
It's 19. Yeah, it's been a lot.
I love your Canadian math.
Yeah.
Also, to our fans and listeners, did you guys know that Canadian money smells like maple syrup?
I had no idea about that.
The hundreds are only supposed to smell like maple syrup.
The 20 does also. Very curious. Maybe somebody who gave this to me had, like Jay said, it was like sandwiched between a couple of hundos.
Hundreds, yeah, like a baller handed you one or something.
Yeah, just like very. Very maple.
Were you standing next to Drake and he looked in his wallet? He goes, "What the hell is this 20 doing here?" And threw it.
Here, take this.
It's embarrassing.
Be gone,
gave it to you peasants. Oh, hey, so that's crazy.
Yeah, it is weird because our money just smells like, I don't know. I guess it just smells like money. I don't know. This smells like syrup. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it smells like dirt. It smells grimy. I don't know.
Some would say it smells like Coke, right? Because there's like always like trace amounts of cocaine on money.
or strippers. So it sounds like, or smells like broken dreams and tears.
Like America.
Cheeseburgers, Big Macs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cargo pant dads. Smells like that too.
Cheers to anyone who's drinking.
Yep. So we got quite a lot to talk about. A few wonderful things happened to one of my least favorite teams in the NHL, which is very exciting. But before we get there, we're doing a Stanley Cup watch party next Saturday.
Yes.
At Lamppost Pizza in West Yorba Linda, right? Not East.
Born and raised.
So we'll be there. Jane will probably be there around 4:30. Game is at 5. I think it's at 5. So game's at 5. We're not doing like our fans that follow us around and have fun with us. And
season's almost over.
Yeah, it's the end of the year.
Yeah,
it's our last kick at the cage to hang, and before we get rocking and rolling and preparing for next season. So that'll be your next week. Eddie can't make this one, unfortunately.
Oh no, I'm sure he'll be drinking at home. I'm sure.
just not for these shows. That's it.
Yeah. He'll count that as 2 drinks, by the way.
It is mango cart. So, guys, where do we start? Should we start with the Blues and Sharks series? Because I feel like there's a lot we could talk about from just the San Jose Sharks perspective. But kind of a lackluster ending for a Game 6. That was very disappointing. Very disappointing.
San Jose had a lot of problems heading into that. Between injuries, there's a fight they had at a scrimmage, I think it was Game 5.
Oh, it was Aaron Dell and some scrum.
Yeah, some other plug. So that's weird.
And warm-up's not what you do, bud. You don't do that.
Yeah, probably. I wonder how often that happens. I've seen it occasionally that happens that way, but I don't know. Between teammates, I know. I never get upset. It's just once someone does that, I just get out of the net. I just like, all right, forget you. I'm done. I'm taking it to that.
It's a problem. It's got to be a problem when you get to that level.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, it's like the backups too. They'll face the harder shots. Like the players won't necessarily go, top corner or top bar down on their goalies. Their starters, because they don't want an injury. They don't want to hit them in the head, and then concussion protocol kicks in and all that other fun stuff. So if you're a backup, you tend to face a little bit harder shots and not necessarily friendly ones.
You kind of expected that Game 6 to be like Pavelski didn't play, right? I know Karlsson and Hurdle were out, so you have don't have your captain. You don't have Erik Karlsson. You don't have Tomas Hurdle. Like those are arguably 3 of your better players, and they're not playing. You kind of felt like they're at least going to lose, but yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised to win 5-1. You've got Martin Jones and Ned, who's struggled all year, so you take out 3 key pieces of your team. They are deep, and they did arguably have their best player in Logan Couture, but that's a huge loss. Like that's like taking out O'Reilly, Tarasenko, and Pietrangelo out of the Blues and expecting them to go in and win, right? Like that's just it's not going to happen. They're a deep team, but I don't think they would have ever been able to overcome that. That was just too big of a loss for them, and they were playing in St. Louis too. Like that's even harder to try and overcome that. Like you're playing on the road and you lose your captain, your best defenseman, and one of your best young players. Like that's just impossible for them to overcome from that.
You'd say impossible, but then, like, if they had only had maybe, like, Pavelski out and they had everybody else at least try and play, I'm sure the refs would have been able to help them. They just can't help them when there's
at least
3 main guys gone. Then it's just too
You can't make up 4 goals, but if you can keep it within 1 and late in the third, the refs will give you a nice
game. I think that's why St. Louis just went all out. It's like, listen, we got to build up, like, a football score ahead of them before, then we might be able to let off the gas just a bit. But
that's a tough goal. I don't like the Sharks. You guys know that. I was rooting against them the second they got into the playoffs. I have, zero sympathy for them whatsoever. It all just kind of hinged on Martin Jones at the end of it, though, didn't it? The guy had a sub 870 round against the Blues.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's the heckle and the heckle,
and they still got it to 6 games, right? Like if he was average, they probably would have won that easily.
If he was a 9-10 goalie, if he was a backup goalie, they win this series.
We've been saying that all year. Like if he was a 9-10 goalie in the regular season, they would have ran away with the Western Conference and probably got 55 plus wins. Just because of where they ended up finishing with him being horrible all year. Even Aaron Dell was bad. Like both their goaltenders finished below 900 save percentage. And they still got close to topping the Western Conference.
It's the ebb and flow. It's the inconsistency. It's the problem we almost always see with Martin Jones. Like, you look at the first 4 or 5 games in the Vegas series, he was god-awful garbage, and we thought it was going to go down real quick. And all of a sudden started playing really well the end of the first round all the way to the second round. Played very well. Numbers got up, and then it just went off a cliff when St. Louis did. So it's kind of that up and down that he has, which is really, really rough when it comes to playoffs. You got to have at least a little bit of consistency. But even Bennington, I think his numbers are backup quality. I think he's like 9.14 compared to a lot of the other goalies that are in the mix. There's far better goalies that aren't even playing that have a higher save percentage. So, goalies are good. You need them hot. That definitely helps. But it also helps when your team's kicking in goals and not injured.
This is like a Dan Bylsma type run from Craig Berube, right? Almost even a little bit better, because Dan Bylsma, I think he came in later in the year for them, and then Craig.
And he didn't take a last place team.
Yeah, and Craig Berube came in around Christmas time, I think around December or January when he came in. They were either bottom of the league or close to it when he took over, and at one point they were the worst team in the league. They were 31st. Brought them all the way back, got them into the playoffs, and then they've obviously made just a ridiculous run now to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like that, that's why he's nominated for the Jack Adams. But I don't know if it's just him or just that change of scenery. This is the team we expected them to be, right? Like, this is what at the beginning of the season a lot of people picked them to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Is it him, or is it just they changed the change of scenery? The team kind of regrouped and got back to what they were supposed to be. Like, I think it's a bit of both.
I would say it's a mix of both. I don't think you can't attribute that all to one thing. They kind of came together as a group, and they just pushed through, man. I mean, they were one of the best teams, like you said, right? The second half of the year, they're one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, and this is a team that was coached by Mike Yeo for a while. So it's
who I guess was interviewed by the Ducks before Randy Carlyle. Oh, I don't know what would have been worse.
I'm not sure either. Yeah, pick your poison, literally on it. But the coaching will come in, and maybe it's a better fit with what the team has. But I know Tarasenko was off to just a horrific start. But the only one who's been consistent through the entire season was Ryan O'Reilly, and he was carrying the team, but he was a big leader down the line there. But it also coincided with Bennington coming in, and I mean, he thrust himself from halfway in the season all the way to the end. He's in the conversation for Rookie of the Year, the Calder. I mean, and he hasn't looked really out of place. I mean, the numbers, like I said, overall save percentage, not the upper echelon right now, but he's doing enough to win. And he's won 3 rounds. He hasn't lost a series yet. I just jinxed him, but. That was, I think it all kind of coincides with, a new goaltender, the team wanting to play better, a new coach, a new system. So a lot of little different things kind of adding up. And they're hot right now. They're so hot right now.
The Martin Jones issue for me is hilarious. He had an 8.96 regular season and 8.98 postseason. He made it all the way to Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Insanity. His last 5 games he played in this playoffs: an 8.40, an 8.75, a 9.09, an 8.75, and a 7.78 to cap off the end of his season.
I want to know how good the Sharks are, right, as a team.
Just brutal.
I want to see what his numbers were in elimination games, because he had 5 of them and only lost 1 of them. I think. Well, not their elimination, because Colorado, they were eliminating Colorado. So, I think he's done well in certain aspects, but yeah, overall, that's that's not going to get you.
When you have Erik Karlsson and you can't get through this series with a guy who's
half an Erik Karlsson,
and he was still really damn good when he was on the ice. Maybe not the best that we've seen him at for sure, but he was definitely laboring throughout the playoffs. He didn't look like himself. That was noted by many broadcasts throughout the entire playoffs. Most notably, against the Avs is when it started to look like he was starting to get really affected. And then the Blues series, clearly, he was half of what he used to be. But yeah, bye San Jose.
What's the number one priority for San Jose this offseason then? Because Karlsson's UFA, Pavelski's UFA, or is it going out and actually getting a goaltender that isn't Martin Jones, like somebody average at least?
Hold on, you forgot Pavelski UFA, Thornton UFA, Karlsson UFA, Nyquist UFA, Donskoy UFA, Heed and Haley UFAs, For the draft, they have no 2019 first or second round pick, no 2020 first round pick, and they lose their 2021 second round if Erik Karlsson returns, which doesn't look like he's going to, and they lose their 2020 second round if Nyquist returns, which is still a possibility.
Yeah, but like Nyquist isn't a big loss. You can either fill that from within or get somebody in free agency. And Joe Thornton is great of a player he was. I don't think he's a massive loss for them. But losing Pavelski is huge. He's still one of their best players. He's their captain. Erik Karlsson,
he is. Yeah, he and Couture. Yeah.
Erik Karlsson, you could argue, was their best defenseman between him and Brent Burns, and he's a big loss. Or like, can you sustain those losses and maybe go out and try and get a goaltender? Like, I don't know if Sergei Bobrovsky would want to come out to San Jose. I'm sure it's not the worst place to play and the worst place to live. But is that... I mean, in my opinion, like, yeah, it's tough to lose Erik Karlsson, but you didn't have him before. You've gotten far without him before. You could probably sustain that with Brent Burns back there. I think it's between trying to keep Joe Pavelski or going out and getting a legitimate starting goaltender, because they can't obviously do it with Martin Jones. You can't have that. In those, like you said, the save percentage below 900 in all of the last 5 games of the playoffs for him, you can't win with that. Like, they arguably lost because of him.
You need a goalie. How could they get one at the deadline?
Because they had belief in Martin Jones, because he's done stuff in the past. They should have at least gotten a backup, right? Like, Aaron Dell struggled this year, too. Like, there was rumors they were going to go after Ryan Miller. They never did. Like, that would have been something they could have done to at least when Martin Jones was struggling. They could have been like, oh, we'll go with this guy. Maybe he can get it done. They didn't even try.
No.
Yeah. I think Ryan Miller would have been a nice little fit for them for a good backup veteran run there. But yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think Thornton's probably going to come back, another real team-friendly contract just to give it another whirl. Pavelski, I have concerns about Pavelski. He's taken a couple of mean hits to the head this postseason, and I don't know, when someone gets that old and they've had that many hits in such a short amount of time, how well is he, or how durable is he going to be kind of moving forward? So yeah, you kind of hate to lose him just because he can put up those 20 to 30 goals and, is a leader on the team, obviously, but he's kind of getting up there in age, and he's got, in my opinion, a really questionable thing that's going on with, his concussion. So they do have a lot to answer. I don't think Erik Karlsson comes back. I think Nyquist they probably let walk, mostly because they'll value more draft picks if they can hold on to him, because they don't have too many. But they're not ones that will shy away from testing free agent markets and seeing who's out there and who they can try and grab. But I think Karlsson's out, and their big question is what they're going to do with Pavelski and what do they feel.
Yeah, he took a really bad shot from Alex Pietrangelo. He took the forearm clearly right to the face. They called it an elbow. I mean, that was a full forearm elbow. He ate it big time. Yeah. And then he left that game 5 and didn't come in and play in game 6. That's just brutal for them, honestly.
Yeah.
Jimmy pointed out that the Sharks have Jones tied up for 5 more years at 5.75. That's a tough go.
Yeah, I don't think they can get a better another goalie unless they're willing to move him somewhere. Trade him back to Boston.
Yeah, do that.
Didn't forget he was on Boston. that was
like a split second, right?
Yeah. Just as the Kings got rid of him, we don't want San Jose to have it. Let's trade to Boston. Boston, thanks. All right, flip him. Put him over in San Jose now.
And some Kings fans say they wish they would have held on to Martin Jones and they would have traded Quick. And I'm like, you guys are insane. You're insane. I don't like Quick either, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's a toughie.
Was that recent, or was that like back when he got traded originally?
Back when he got traded originally.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say.
All right, fans are weird.
Let's talk about not the Sharks. Let's go more NHL direction here. Kudos to the Blues. We didn't get to mention them. We're going to break that down here with the Bruins and Blues Cup final, which I guess is going to be just the Bobby Orr bonanza with his stupid jumping goal that he scored.
Oh my God, ago. We are going to see that 4 times a game.
That's
every game until it ends.
So what about EK65? We know that he was injured. He didn't look good, or not didn't look good. He didn't look good for him in the playoffs. He was definitely still exceptional, or more exceptional than most defensemen on the ice when he was playing. But he's going to need surgery. If you're a team that's looking at him, Erik Karlsson.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about St. Louis. Sorry.
No. Well, I just gave them kudos, and I wanted to go back to Erik Karlsson.
Okay.
Talk about the Blues a bit. But what do you do if you're a team looking at Erik Karlsson? Like, you have to wonder who's going to be over ambitious in trying to bid for him, because you know it's going to happen. There's going to be teams that are going to they're just going to throw anything and everything they can to get him. And then there's going to be teams that I think are going to be good. They're going to look at him and be like, all right, man, how long is your recovery? What's the chance you're going to get re-injured? You're 29 years old now. He's going to want $7 years, like max contract. What happens there?
I don't think anyone's all that concerned about necessarily the injury. Obviously they want to know, what's the recovery time because they want to know how quickly they can get him on the ice. But even at 29, you start saying, "Oh, he's kind of getting up there." Defensemen have a greater longevity in the league than a forward. Especially his type, where he's not asked to brutalize the other team, play a physical game. It's hey, be as responsible as you can in the defensive zone, work it out. You're an offensive type defenseman. Transition play, defensive forward, try and do that sort of deal. So I feel like even if he gets 7 or 8 years, it's not necessarily wasted. The end of that contract's probably going to look maybe, who knows at that point, but it could, not be so great as his pay goes. But you're paying for 4 or 5 years of Erik Karlsson, and any team that picks up 4 or 5 years of Erik Karlsson, where I'm out of Ottawa. I'm done with that. I'm testing my free agent. I now want to win a cup. This is my singular focus. This is where I want to go. I feel most teams are willing to take on that if they can afford to do so. That's about the only thing.
That's the thing, if they can afford to do so. But the team, again, that's been linked with him is Tampa Bay somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can afford to get that done. They haven't signed Braden Point yet, have they? He's still an RFA. I think.
He's still an RFA, yep.
There's no way you get both of those done, I think. Like you pick one or the other. I can see him going there. Tampa Bay's in that unique situation where they are in cap hell, and they need to win now type situation. Toronto's another team that maybe, if they want to go big, they'll look at trying to get him too. But there's only a couple places I think he'll be able to go. Like, there's no team I don't think a team like New Jersey, as much as they could really use him, would go after a player like him at that age with how young their team is. Like, even getting Jack Hughes and having Nico Hischier and Taylor Hall, bringing in Erik Karlsson, that makes you better. That maybe makes them a playoff team. But I don't think they're good enough to compete yet. So you're looking at some of the best teams, the teams that are already close to winning a cup, like Toronto and Tampa Bay, among others, and most of them can't even afford them. Like, Toronto's in a cap situation themselves, having to re-sign Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. I don't know how anybody can afford it right now. San Jose made it close, and we thought they were going to be Stanley Cup contenders, but Martin Jones kind of threw that out the window. Erik Karlsson might have less suitors than we think going into free agency, just because it's going to be difficult for some of the top-end teams to make it work. He might have to go to a team that is like a borderline playoff team, or a team that isn't one of the top teams in the league, and try and make that team better to become one of those teams.
You know where I think he goes?
Oh, I have a guess too. You go first, though.
Vegas.
Yeah, maybe. I
think he goes to Vegas.
That actually makes sense.
Big money.
That's better than
West Coast. All the popularity's there right now. Everyone's stoked on that team. Gets reunited with Stone. Stone's a beast.
If they still have Treasure Island, he has a side job where he can look like a pirate.
Very true. I like that.
Yes.
Daniel said Florida.
Florida. Oh, with Joe Quinn.
Damn it, that was my guess.
He said they'll win the offseason with Panarin, Bobrovsky, and Erik Karlsson.
Exactly what I was going to say.
You back up that Brinks truck, baby. That's going to be a real, real tough one to pull off down there.
I think at one point we brought this up too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because we knew that Panarin and Bobrovsky, more than there's a good possibility that they're going to be a package deal. They have the same agent. They're looking in Florida area, anyways. You know how Russians love it down there, and so those two going, and then even adding Erik Karlsson on that team, all of a sudden Florida becomes just an insane team. You just got one of the best free agent forwards, best free agent goalies, best free agent defensemen. All of a sudden Florida's on the map again, versus Tampa Bay. And I mean, if they go, it's a ballsy move if they can get all of them out there, and then you add Barkov into that. You still Huberdeau in there. I mean, there's a lot of things.
If they get that, that makes the Florida rivalry that much better. Are they better than Tampa Bay? Because they've got, Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky are both very, very good goaltenders. You could argue that Florida's blue line is a little bit better because Keith Yandel's a great defenseman, and then Erik Karlsson up there with Victor Hedman as in some of the elite in the league. Then you add in Aaron Ekblad for Florida, and I guess Ryan McDonough for Tampa Bay, and then it comes down to forwards. And I think maybe that's where Tampa gets the edge, just having two superstars in Stamkos
Kucherov and Stamkos.
But then you've got Barkov, you've got Panarin, you've got Huberdeau, Trocheck.
Come on, you can't even begin to name Panarin and Barkov in the same sentence as Kucherov and Stamkos. You just
not
can't.
currently.
No, it's maybe a step below, but you take maybe a 90-point guy and a 100-point guy in Stamkos and Kucherov, and you go down to an 2 80-point guys in Panarin and Barkov. It's not a huge
and how much
step
better are they going to be once Erik Karlsson's back there on defense and Ekblad's on there on defense? How much better are those forwards going to be?
Well,
their point totals and goals going up.
As long as Bobrovsky doesn't turn into Martin Jones, I guess they'll be all right.
Well, yeah, the 2-time Vezina Trophy winner versus the guy who can't stay consistent.
The sub 900 boy, the sub 900 guy. That's what we're comparing here. I would like to see him go to back to Ottawa. I think that's what I'd like to see him go. It'd be the best story ever. DJ King gets hired as the coach, right? Is it DJ King who got hired?
Ottawa?
He goes. He's going to be the coach in Ottawa, and then Erik Karlsson's like, I think I'm just, I just really think I need to go back to Ottawa.
As much as I don't think it's a good move, I would like to see New Jersey just try and swing for the fences. I don't know if that's a place that Erik Karlsson wants to go, but you never know, right? Like they didn't expect to get Jack Hughes, and now you've got a future 1-2 punch in Hughes and Hischier for the next 10 years. You've got one of the best goal scoring wingers in the league in Taylor Hall, and goaltending for them is a question mark. Corey Schneider is not good anymore, but sometimes he can be good. He's kind of like Martin Jones, where he's just not consistent. Yeah. They just need a defenseman. I don't know if going out and getting 29-year-old Erik Karlsson is the best route, but if they think they could be good in the next couple of years, they might do it. They have the cap room.
Watch Erik Karlsson take a 5-year deal at $12 million. And he's going to go somewhere where he can be competitive in the short term. He's not. I don't think he's going to be. If he's going to go to a cup contender, they're already stacked, right? Like they're already going to be.
So
stacked
they can't
up.
afford $12 million.
But they also can't afford to give him like 8 years or 7 years, right?
I'm figuring they don't care if it's longer term, if it's shorter versus every year, because they're a stacked team. They're probably
what if he takes like a 2-year deal at $11 million or something like that?
He's not going to take 2 years. He wants. There's
not at 29.
What if he has a horrific injury or that leg doesn't heal a lot?
Oh yeah, that guaranteed money that the NHL likes to give. That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Not at 29.
Why don't you go to Vegas and ruin our lives? He's going to go to Vegas and just ruin our lives.
I just don't want him over here. Just go somewhere else over there. I was hoping San Jose was such a horrible experience that he's like, that's the West Coast.
Well, he thanks
right the hell back
in a tweet that doesn't seem like he's going to be going back.
Not San Jose. Yeah. No, that was a farewell. Thanks for the hospitality.
He's going East Coast.
East Coast. I think he's done with Canada, like most people who think are.
To be fair, I only know one person who intentionally went to New Jersey in their life, and that was Patreon subscriber and listener Jimmy. He went to New Jersey on purpose to watch the Ducks play him. I don't think anyone else wants to purposely go there.
Has anyone signed a free agent contract to want to go to New Jersey? Recently, big name, big name,
but then he left.
Yeah, I think that was like the mistake. He's like, he got here. He's like, oh crap, this is what it is. I thought it'd be like New York.
Oh yeah,
I don't think
no, go to Russia.
New Jersey's never really. They haven't had any big guys, and the guys that they've had kind of stayed there.
Through the draft.
Forever.
It's been through the draft. Yeah,
stayed there for a very long time.
So they got there through trade or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. We got to talk about the refereeing in this year's playoffs, boys.
Before that. Puck bottle opener.
Jason displaying.
Yeah.
He's actually using it.
I used it the other day for the first time. It actually.
Oh my God, Eddie! We've had these for a year.
Well, I didn't. I got mine when I came down in March. Close to a year. So.
Yeah.
But I was surprised how well it worked. Honestly,
did it open your ice cold pop, as you guys call them?
Yeah. Did you try and use it on cans and you weren't sure how to use it?
Wow, that's a tough one.
No, people were impressed on how well they worked.
You were the hit of the ball.
So how do we fix the replay issue in the NHL? The refereeing has been awful, and everyone who's not a Sharks fan can clearly see that it's been awful. Like, when has the NHL last come out and apologized? Like, that happened in the Sharks series. They got all the breaks until the end. it's insane. Like linesmen and referees like not allowed to referee the rest of the playoffs after those series. It's just insane things happening here with the referees. And you go to the replays and you're like, my God, you can't review a hand pass, but you can review if a guy's skate is a hairline off the blue line.
Just up.
We shouldn't have to list what's reviewable and what's not reviewable. Like, if we get into saying, okay, well, now you can review if a hand pass leads to a goal, that's so specific, because what if it's like, if it's something else, then that's not reviewable, we got to add that to the list later on. Like, if it's clearly a play, like, the refs should just be able to, at their discretion, go back and put in a review if it's something that needs to be fixed. Like, there shouldn't be specific moments where they can go back and review. If it's a goal and there's something that leads to that goal that's not allowed, whether if the puck goes out of play or if it's a hand pass or whatever it is, they should just be able to, at the referee's discretion, go back and review it. Or if the refs miss it, that, you know, in Toronto, they'll call down and say, hey, this happened, we have to go back and review this. Like, there shouldn't be a list of things that need to be reviewed and that don't need to be reviewed. If it needs to be changed, if it was a bad goal because of a certain situation, like in this one, if it was a hand pass, then that should just be reviewable along with everything else that is, you know, that would lead to the goal being disallowed.
Yeah, but then you can almost run into the problem. It's like, well, how far back? I mean, this is all stuff that, in my opinion, needs to be finalized or, put down as far as the new rules. How far back do you go? Oh, well, there was a hand pass that got missed in the other zone. It came all the way down here. They played around for about a minute and then a goal led to it. But way back here, that play should have been blown dead. Now you start going back in time and figuring out which is what's supposed to happen. So that's where they have to kind of, I guess, break down exactly what is going to be reviewed and what the whole play, or how it should end up going. I figure if there's any sort of, if a coach has a challenge, they can challenge a specific play that happened within the offensive zone that created that chance, whether it be offsides, goalie interference, the puck went into the netting, it was a hand pass, something like that happened in the offensive zone. If it ends up leaving the zone and coming back in, it's a brand new play. And if it's a review, they get 30 seconds. If the call is a goal and the coach says, you guys missed this, we saw it clear as day, please go review it. The refs have a limited amount of time to do it. It's 30 seconds to a minute. And after that, if they uphold it, once again, the coach cannot use another challenge later in the game. And I feel that's somewhat reasonable to try and find a happy medium in there. So I feel like you can review any play. It shouldn't be specific plays, but it's got to be something related to what led to the goal, not something that happened 3 minutes ago in the other zone, but there was no stoppage in between.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this just can't happen again. I think that's where I'm getting at. Like, you can't have something like that. Like Danielle brought up in her chat, maybe make all scoring plays in OT reviewable. Just take a look anyway. Like, that this was so obvious, though, that it should just have never happened. The fact that we all saw it, the replay clearly shows that it was a hand pass. And, they can't go back. Because of the rules, they can't make their own discretion on the play and go back and disallow it. And, if they see a replay, they're not allowed to change it. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? That because they're not allowed to, by the rules, look at a replay, they can't change it because they didn't see it on the ice. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's just taking human error that's deciding an important game at that point. Obviously, it doesn't come back to hurt the Blues in this series, but it could have. I mean, that's a pivotal game in a Western Conference final. It shouldn't go down to a goal that should have never happened.
Yeah, but you got to think of it this way. If you're going to do that, you're essentially opening up a can of worms here. I mean, it's going to go to... You remember how stupid the crease violation was, how much we hated that shit? It's going to come back to that. It's going to come back to something like that. It's going to be that dumb where everything's going to be reviewable. They're going to take their time, and then it's just going to. Now we're going to have to collectively hold our breaths on every damn goal in the NHL going forward.
We have to hold our breaths.
Is this a really good goal, or is it going to be one that gets called back? I can't imagine adding another rule to the system is going to make it better. And the NHL always likes to overreact to things like this. I say just take replay out of the question altogether, and then everyone plays on the same playing field. Let it all go. Get rid of the stupid replay for the puck in the netting. Get rid of the stupid replay for offside. Get rid of the stupid replay for goalie interference. Y'all live and die by human error. Everyone has to deal with these referees and linesmen. Yeah, I'm from Nashville.
The problem becomes that if you do that, like what happens if something like that happens that leads to a team winning a series or God forbid winning the Stanley Cup off a goal like that? Like how ridiculous would that be?
You're setting the precedent that now with replay, everything has to be perfect.
Slippery slope.
I mean, I know how much you love soccer, but the reason they introduced something like VAR, which is video assisted replay in soccer, is because there's been goals where you can't tell if it bounces off the crossbar and bounces like off the line and out. You can't tell if the ball's fully crossed the line. It's just impossible to see it. So they have video assisted replay now to look at, and the ref can go back and look. He'll get a signal from somebody in the VAR box if the ball's crossed the line, if there's a handball or whatever, and then he goes and looks at it. And now that they've had that, they get the right call every time now. Things like that don't happen. There's been instances where the ball has either not fully crossed the line or it has and it didn't catch it, and it's led to teams winning important games and in winning championships. Like you can't have that happen in any sport. You can't just go back to not having replay. What we all want is them to get the right call and the right team to win the right way. You can't have that if you just take out replay.
Interference and offside is just... No one likes any of those rules. No one does. They're all subjective. They're subjective. Was his skate literally a micro hair off the blue line when he was getting to the bench? If you're Landeskog, sure, he should have got his ass over the boards. He wasn't even involved in the play. Soccer has that rule. Not involved in the play, not offside. NHL doesn't have that rule. They're not going to fix it that way. They're literally going to get more cameras and zoom in on literally everything because they're getting bad press and they can't get shit right. And they're going to overanalyze literally everything that happens on the ice. That's what they're going to do.
Honestly, I don't think a hand pass should be not allowed unless you're like catching it and throwing it. Like he just swats his hand at it. You're allowed to kick it to somebody.
Yeah, it's in the rule book.
It's in the rule book, so
even if it hits off somebody else and then still goes to your team, it's still considered a hand pass.
And again, too, I think you should be allowed to kick the puck in the net. I don't see why. I don't have an issue with that whatsoever.
Probably because they don't want guys kicking sharp blades up in the air trying to get it, and then someone's scrambling in front of the net. Someone's down. Oh, I was just trying to kick it in. Oh yeah, I kicked him in the eye.
You can't have anything more subjective. There can't be any subjectivity here. It has to be black and white if you're going to make a rule. And this nitpicking of replay is ridiculous.
The problem is when you have smaller rules like that, like things like you can't hand pass the puck, you can't kick it in, you can't do this, you can't, and like the layers and layers of rules is when you get to making it difficult on what gets subjected to replay and what doesn't. The NHL seems to have more rules than any other sport at that point on what you can and can't do with the puck. And that's when we get to the point on what gets reviewed and what doesn't get reviewed. And then you have to make a long list of what can be reviewed and what can't be. So that it's either
no reviews.
They go in and they scrap some rules so that you don't have to review them, or you do have to make that long list and update it every time something bad happens on what can be reviewed and what can't be reviewed, which is an annoying process.
I don't mind the rules they have.
Also, with goody, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, Jay.
No, it's all right. Modern Times. What kind is that?
Blazing World IPA. Oh. Very yummy.
What's that alcohol?
It's a dark amber beer. The alcohol is 6.8%. It's a yummy one.
It's not a horchata, but it's close enough.
It's not a churro water.
I like that churro water, actually. What I don't like is that there's two things you can review. So get rid of that. If, like I said, in my opinion, if everything can be reviewed to make sure that not necessarily if a penalty was committed, but if something wasn't allowed, was it high sticked? I mean, they review that as well. I mean,
it shouldn't.
I think they should. If it's that's a whole nother conversation, because I think if it takes skill to actually smack something from up high and knock it down and into the net, I don't think you should be punished for that. I think that's damn impressive if you're able to do that.
Now you're swinging sticks in the same way you were swinging skates around and trying to knock a puck in.
Yeah, but it's all right. The stick they're waving is like this. A skate has got a blade with an edge and going
can't high
up
stick anything in hockey.
You have guys swinging it like a baseball bat if you're allowed to hit it from anywhere.
Yeah, everyone's just going to stand there because the NHL is so stand around and swing it like a baseball bat.
Okay, look, you need human error in this sport because otherwise everything's subjective. Then everyone's going to be like, well, then I want every referee that's ever gotten a call right.
You got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds or 60 seconds, whatever you want to pick it out. If there's a problem or the coaching staff noticed something that was missed within the offensive zone that ended up, I would almost say, directly leading to a goal, or was like, hey, that was offsides. He brought it over the line, or that hit the netting, came back in. They played around with it for a while and then ended up scoring. I think that should be reviewable, but you get 30 to 60 seconds. I don't want this, 5 minutes of them critiquing how much that skate is over. If they can't figure it out in 30 to 60 seconds, a horn blows. That's the time. If they can't see enough things to overturn it, the call on the ice stands.
What does our chat say? Chat gets the final answer.
Yes.
Daniel said,
scientific survey
with Coach's Challenge.
They just want us to leave.
Honestly, one thing I feel like you could do is, and you leave.
Move on.
You have a decision on the ice with the refs, and then right when the goal is scored, we already have a replay room in Toronto that looks at everything. You have people dedicated to looking at every situation in that game to determine if things are done. You have about 30 seconds between when the team scores before the pucks drop at the faceoff. Have them analyze every part of that play that led up to the goal, and if it is determined that something illegal happened against the rules, that the puck went in if it was off a hand pass, right? There was no denying that was an illegal play. The problem was they couldn't go and review it. Well, if the replay room is looking for things like that, they determined that that's illegal. They buzz down to the refs. They say, hey, there's a hand pass leading to this goal. Take a look at it. They go look at it, and then that play never happens. There's something.
Can we just say that that's only acceptable if they only review the last 5 seconds before the goal?
No,
last 5 seconds.
That's all you get. You get the replay from 5 seconds on, and that's it.
No, because literally it can hit the upper netting, jump back into play. They pass it around 3 times.
Just don't have a review. Don't have any review. Leave it
until it happens to your team, and then you're screaming, "We lost that series because of this."
Rarely.
I think even if the hand pass 5 seconds, I think if you do the 5 seconds of that hand pass goal, the hand pass is barely in the last 5 seconds.
Look, the thing that everyone's pissed about,
it was
rarely happens.
It does. Rarely happens, but it shouldn't happen at all. That's the thing. It's like the whole
argument. So why
not
just say, "Hey, let's just take a quick look at it, 30 seconds. That's your timing. If you can figure it out, if not, go on the ice stands."
I agree.
The whole problem with umpires that people have in baseball.
Yeah, you hate the whole umpire thing anyway.
With umpires, they shouldn't have that at all. That's the dumbest sport to have human error. And it's like they have an umpire deciding if a ball coming at 100 miles per hour is missing.
You misspoke. That is the dumbest sport. That should have been.
Yeah. You should have ended it right there.
I'm surprised you put soccer in front of baseball.
No, soccer's not really a sport. So
yeah,
on from that. Baseball's where it starts.
That,
all right, let's move on.
It's soccer, golf, cheerleading. They're kind of in the same realm.
Jesus. And all of our fans turn off the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, bye, guys.
Because we're trying to be funny.
All right. Well,
and we're not funny. All right. So there's how we fix the NHL replay problem. Clearly, that's how the Board of the Governor meeting is going to go. They're going to sound just like us.
Oh, yeah.
And
not like you.
Right? Anything. So if you guys haven't already heard, actually, that we're doing a one last watch party for the year. It's the Cup Final Party. Next Saturday, June 1st, Lamppost Pizza in West Yorba Linda. Come hang out with Jason and I. Eddie will be there in spirit. We just want to get together, have some pizza, drink some beers, or whatever beverage you want, and watch the Blues beat up on the Bruins, hopefully. That's what we're all rooting for here.
Absolutely.
And do that. But that's next Saturday. Puck drops at 5. Jane will be there around 4. Bring your family. It's very conducive to family environment, obviously. It's a pizza place.
For sure.
So just come have fun. No need for a sitter. Unless you want one, you need that special date night, which we get.
But, I mean, they're technically going on a date with us.
That's true. You're on a double date with Jane and I. You can't bring your children, right? All right. So if you guys don't already have The Athletic, you should definitely get it, because if you're a Ducks fan, like most of you are, Eric Stevens, Iceman Cometh on Twitter, is the beat writer for the Ducks, and he's amazing, and he does amazing things. On the
we're not getting paid to say this, by the way.
No, by the way, it's not an ad. It's just I don't ever go to ESPN.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't go to TSN. I don't go to Sportsnet. I literally open my phone and open up the Athletic.
Canada. That's why you don't go to TSN.
Mostly, yes.
I like Canada.
I like the way their money smells recently.
Yeah, the fact that this smells like maple syrup. Very Canadian. I appreciate it.
I'm surprised you guys don't have a maple beer.
They probably
do. I think we do. Probably have like 4 different kinds, honestly.
Yeah, 40 different kinds. I love places that milk trees, so that's why I like Canada. But anyway, what I'm getting to here is there's an article up, and I'm going to butcher his last name, but Dom, as he goes by everywhere else. Do you know how to say his last name? Is it Lucian?
I think so. I don't know. I've always struggled with it. I just call him Dom because I don't want to try.
Great with analytics. Great with everything hockey. I love following along here. But he put up an article this week of the 15 ways to improve the NHL. 15 changes he's proposing. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on all these, but I just want to get you guys' quick takes on these because I thought some were interesting.
Eddie, have you heard these?
I have not heard.
I have not either. So this will be new for us and anyone who hasn't read it.
They were paid to say that. Everyone.
Yes.
And so the first one he says is playoff seeding. He wants to go back to 1 versus 8 playoff. No division winners automatically get the top 2 seeds either.
I'm fine with that. No, I hate that a division winner gets the top seed because if you have a crap division, a guy just gets to jump into they get to jump into a 2 spot and they're not the second best team in that conference. It's been ridiculous that's ever been in there. Like I get they want parity and they want to try and get one team from each division to make it all the way to the Western Conference Final, but it's so ridiculous that a team who could have sometimes like 10 or 15 points fewer than the next team below them, they get the second seed just because they won their division.
Go ahead, Jay, sorry.
One of the things I think the NHL's trying to do, and you can look at it any time they promote their NBCSN, it's rivalry. It's rivalry week. It's rivalry night. It's
Wednesday night rivalry night.
Yeah.
We don't fight anymore.
They want to do is they want to have, the number 1 team obviously gets a little bit of a perk. They're going to play, the top team in each division gets to play the weakest 2 teams that made it, quote unquote, weakest teams that made it into the playoffs. And then what they're trying to do is the other 2 teams are within the division, and that creates that little bit of rivalry. I mean, you're going to see those teams more in the regular season than any other teams usually within your division. And then you start playing each other more and more in the playoffs. That's where the animosity grows up. They ended our season. That team, I hate those guys. I hate their fans. It gets people amped up, and they want to actually start watching more games. So I understand why they went to this way. Not necessarily that I think it's the best way, but I understand why they did it, and I don't hate that they do it this way. But the purists will say top team in that division will play the worst team because they earned to get to that point. The other thing, I don't really think it matters if you go 1 and 8 and 2 and 7. I mean, the top 1 or 2 usually are the top in the division, with some exceptions.
What about like Montreal this year? Montreal finished 14th in the league and missed the playoffs. They were in the top 16 but missed the playoffs due to the format.
Once again, the format is very minor, and no offense, but how far do you think Montreal was going to go?
I think it doesn't matter.
And less Canadian teams, the better.
Like the problem is like 16 teams make the playoffs. Arguably, Montreal was one of the 16 best. Points wise, they were one of the 16 best teams in the playoffs or in the league, and they didn't. Yeah, but they still were. They were 14th in the league. They didn't make the playoffs because of...
They're in a crap division.
Yeah, well, they're in a good division because it was the Leafs and Boston and Tampa Bay that easily...
They have 3 good teams.
That's the juggernaut.
And then they had to fight out for a wild card spot where the Metro was just
Ottawa.
Very good teams all the way across the board. I honestly, I think it should be 1 through 16 they make it. I know they will never do that because you could have a disparity between the amount of Eastern Conference and Western Conference teams that make it, and that would be a problem for travel. At least then, if you're not going to do that, I think it should be 1 to 8 from each conference. You've got the best team playing the worst team. I think that's how it should be. I get why they do it. They do it for rivalry. They do that because they want money. I understand it, but I think the best team should play the worst team, and the second best team should play the second worst team, and 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. Like that's how it should go. That's how the seeding should go. If they took this right now, and the only thing they changed was not giving the division winner the second seed, that would be still a little bit better for me. Like that's one of the main things I want to take out is that at least if you seed it 1 through 8 and you still have your division rivals with the wild card, you just take out the division leader getting a number 2 spot. I'd be fine with that. But I think I would rather them go back 1 to 8. I don't really care about the rivalries. You can make new rivalries by having a 1 to 8. You get teams who never play each other in the playoffs. That would be pretty cool to see. Like you'll build rivalries that way. They want to just pump up the old ones we always see, the Leafs versus the Bruins, Ducks and Kings, which they are good rivalries, but they just want to pump up the old ones because they know that's what people are going for. I wouldn't mind seeing some teams that don't normally play each other and see if you can build a rivalry that way if they end up playing each other a couple years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, you always kind of want that thing that's, we've seen this again. Oh, we've seen that again. That's why no one really likes, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Oh, they're going to the finals again. Or, Boston's in it. Or Chicago or the Kings. Everyone kind of got bored of all that crap. But at the same time, most of those divisions, you're generally in an area of whatever country where you're close to other fans. So
you guys realize what Dom was saying in that article is that with the Canadians going and being the 14th best team in the league points-wise, he's talking about 1 versus 16. Top 16 teams and playing that way with travel.
That works if it's a tournament style and it's one game decides it. But if you start doing a 7-game series, you got 2 at home, then they got to go 2 over there, 2 over here, and then you start talking about Boston going to LA in the first round, back and forth. Which team eventually is going to start getting more tired? Then people are going to start bitching about how exhausted they are because travel is so horrific.
People
and then
will
their
bitch about
second
that
round
for
they do
sure.
Vancouver. They're going to bitch about everything.
No.
We're doing it right now.
At least do 1 V8 in each conference. Like that's
that's fine. I'm more on board with that. But they always change how they do the playoffs, anyways. I mean, whatever's happening now is not necessarily set in stone. They'll probably turn it around. But the one thing that's consistent is that the NHL does not consistently stick with whatever playoff format they have. They have it now.
We have 15 to get through here.
Okay, all right.
So the next one, the point system, get rid of the 3-point game. It's a win's a win, a loss is a loss. You get 2 points, you get no points. And then what do you do about shootout? Get rid of the shootout. Get a tie. Break a tie.
I hate ties.
So his opinion on ties? Make 3-on-3
no one
10
gets
minutes,
points.
2 5-minute periods is what he's saying. He said this year there was 271 games went to overtime, which equates to roughly 43 ties, or about 1.5 per team. I don't like ties, but I would live with that.
I would be
5 per team is not a big deal.
I don't like the 5-minute back and forth. Do a 10-minute, because what they do is when the overtime happens, you're on opposite sides. So your goalie's over here, your bench is over here, and vice versa. So I don't mind it being just 10 minutes of that, because it's far more likely guys are going to get tired and you're so far away from your bench that eventually it leads to a goal. So I'm fine with that. 3-on-3, I love it to death.
That's what he's saying. 3-on-3
it's the most exciting. But if you do just 10 minutes of extra 3-on-3, and then I guess after that, if no one's dead or tired, then most of the time you're going to have a winner anyways. And then
just leave
I'll
it
accept a tie.
10 minutes in the arena and overtime.
Now what happens if they tie? Each team gets 1 point?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what about this?
A good point in our chat. He said the NHLPA will never approve of longer overtime. I feel like they won't either.
For injury reasons, they don't want their players injured.
They don't want tired people. Get better athletes. Come on.
So that goes into the next question, which is also never going to happen, but it's been brought up before, and Jaromír Jágr was a proponent of this when he was in the NHL. Full-time 4-on-4 in the NHL would effectively never happen because there's going to be less players on teams. Right? So
NHLPA would never agree to that.
NHLPA is never going to agree to that.
Nope.
But that would create probably another goal or 2 average per game per 60 if you have 4-on-4.
I don't know. We've been watching 5v5 forever. I think watching 4-on-4 at all.
There's an asterisk after that. It's not the NHL.
And then you have to. It's 2 areas of the NHL. You take it out because now scoring is going to go through the roof at 4-on-4. You're going to have so much more space to work with. It would just be, guys could be hitting 150, 200 points in the season if it got to that point.
I think Gretzky's records are starting to look a little shaky.
That's only fair. He had the video game era.
Yeah, okay.
5v5.
He's still the greatest because it was 5-on-5.
The thing is, you see rules change all the time, but the one thing you never see get touched in any sport is the amount of guys on the field at a time. It's always stayed the same. Soccer's always had 11. Basketball's always had 5v5.
I agree. I don't like that change.
It's the same thing as like changing the net size. They don't change. They don't make the basketball hoop bigger. They don't make the soccer net bigger. And
there's some things you can change, but that's not You don't change that.
No,
you can
it's
do it
dumb.
in overtime. You can do 3-on-3. You can do 4-on-4, 5-on-5, whatever. Because that's
Just
a
to
whole different
get a
animal
damn
machine.
winner. They're so even.
Yeah.
All right,
You can't
next one is
do
no
an hour
offside
4-on-4.
on zone entries.
There's
So
a reason they put. There's a
There was
reason
a
they.
lot of thought there between you two for a second. No
Well,
offside.
like that's
on
not
zone
No,
just
no.
no offsides at all. Then, like,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Like, well, all right, how would that play? There's a reason they have it, and that's so that you don't have a freaking cherry picker that waits by the goalie. And so team's down by a goal or something. One guy waiting down there. Now it's so easy to just fling it out there. I mean, it spreads the whole game out. It makes it way less intense, way
There you
less
Let me give
speed.
you his reasoning. He says if it's a no to a 4-on-4 hockey game, which having both would be overkill for sure, meaning no offside and a 4-on-4. He said then the next best solution toward freeing up space is allowing players to enter the zone freely without the puck. Again, I've written about this before with the hockey news, and I think the positives far outweigh the drawbacks. Offside was created in 1930 to counter the forward pass, but all it does now is clog up the neutral zone, something no one but the coaches like watching, and limit offense. It hinders creativity, and taking it out would give the players much more space with the puck. It's an archaic rule that serves no purpose in the modern NHL.
Listen, I kind of understand that because nobody's gonna create a 5-on-4 in their own zone to go cherry pick. That's not going to happen. You're not going to just shirk all defensive responsibilities to fly out to the blue line. You'll gun it when your guy gets the puck and try and enter the zone as quick as you can, and you'll see a lot of dump ins and a lot of just Erik Karlsson type Hail Mary passes into the zone to try and catch guys. But you're not going to have guys actively just sitting at the opposing team's blue line. And if you do,
You don't even have to be at the blue line. You could be in their zone. And that's essentially a penalty kill, even if you.
But no one's going to do that. Is what
Nobody's
Eddie's
gonna
saying.
do
Why
that.
would you
Would be
100% do it. If you've got a
shorthanded?
good penalty kill, they will absolutely do it. Get the puck, throw it up to the one guy who's all alone. Now he gets a
There's
breakaway.
no way. There's no
You'll
way.
see it. You'll see it.
100%.
The amount of times
That's
you'll
roller
see
hockey.
It, the
That's
amount
roller
of times
hockey.
you'll see it, it won't happen. There's no coach who'll say, "Hey, go sit in their zone." And we're a 5-on-4. You might see it if a team needs a goal late, and they might do it. The other thing is, it's not hard to see. It's not like they're gonna miss it. You'll just put a defenseman on that guy, and then both of them aren't going to sit down there for the entire game. They're going to go get active in the play. Like it's not going to happen as much as people think it is. They're not. The coaches aren't that stupid. And players aren't that ridiculous.
You'll see a difference in play. You won't see it necessarily. You'll see halves. You'll see where they start playing more at the red line versus the blue line. So it will maybe be spread out a little bit. But if a team is desperate, then you have one guy here. Let's do the penalty kill. Do the penalty kill. Get the puck. Send it down to this guy. Now, if the other team puts a guy down, it's 4-on-4. And
I think
now
what
it's
he's
not
talking about, though,
necessarily too
Jay,
bad.
is on the rush. Your team has the puck. You have a forward ahead of the play on the rush out.
Then
he's able to
what did
skate
he
behind the
say,
defenseman.
though? He said there's
Then
no
you have to-
restriction.
You
There's
have
no
to determine
restriction.
what's a rush and what's not a rush. That will make offside
Oh, there's
ridiculous.
more rules. I love the
Yeah.
rules. Let's go to
So
the
you-
next
Yeah.
one. Call it by the rule book. None of this, let them play at the end of the third. Let them play in the playoffs. You're making room for guys like Brad Marchand, that type of stuff. Do you guys feel like the rules should always be 100% called and just be a
100%
slow down and play? I don't
Yeah.
think so. I like the
No.
subjectivity with that. That's why I also call for no video review.
The problem
Let the refs-
is it changes between ref and ref. It should always be if there's a rule book, you should 100% buy the rule book. You shouldn't say, "Oh, at this time we're gonna shirk off the rules a bit and let guys play." It happens in almost every sport, and it's kind of stupid that they do that. Like, what if it's late? If it's an overtime or late in a period, why are we letting guys play? If there's a penalty or if there's a play that should be called in the first 2 minutes of a game, should be called in the last 2 minutes of a game because it's a penalty no matter what. If a guy slashes a guy the exact same way in the first 2 minutes or the last 2 minutes of a close game, shouldn't matter. It's a penalty. Doesn't matter if it's going to give the other team a power play late. It's a penalty. By the rule book, it's a penalty. It shouldn't matter.
Let me mix this in. So if they're going to do that, we'll go with this number 7. I'm trying to get to these pretty quick, so I don't want to run too long on them. We're about halfway.
Fail.
He said
continue.
penalty adjustments. Give the referee the option to make it between 1 and 5 minutes. It's a ticky-tack slash, but it's a slash. Doesn't deserve a 2. Let's give him a 1 minute in the box.
No.
Let's give him a 3. It was kind of in between. So
That
putting
just adds up
subjectivity
to-
with
That's
the
way
referees.
too much. That's way too much difference between some refs will call things. Think that slash is harder than
agree
the
with
slash
that,
that
too.
another ref called.
I-
And that's a problem. Like again, I bring up other sports, but in soccer, it's with a yellow card.
Stop
Some
bringing
refs-
up soccer. Bring up an
some
actual
refs-
sport.
Because it applies so much better. There's like if a yellow card, if a tackle for one ref is
bring up
harder,
lacrosse.
One ref will give reds and yellows for pretty much everything. Another ref will let guys play and they won't give a yellow for a call that 5 other refs might give a yellow for. Like then you get into that situation where this ref gives players
hates
start to
us.
realize we can slash harder with this ref. He's only going to give 1 minute penalties, while this ref is going to give us like 3 or 4. So we got to tone it down. Like it's going to get ridiculous where. Every ref is going to have a different call, and it's not going to be even. If you call by the rules, if a slash is a slash, I know it's already subjective to begin with because calls get missed, but at least if you get a slash, generally it's going to be 2 minutes every time, unless you guys bleeding inside stick. But you can't change that. You can't have between 1 and 5 and leave it all up to the refs. People are going to hate that.
Yeah. Because then it's going to be like that ref hates us, and that ref is going to screw us over. He's going to give us a 5 instead of a 1. Now we're 4 extra minutes, and a 5's a major. So what does that mean? That a 5 minute is they can score as many times as they want, and we're screwed, or is it just 1 and hey, that 5 minutes done? But
let's get to that.
You're changing a whole bunch of other things.
So we got the power play adjustments. How about 2 changes here? Penalty killing team can't ice the puck, and a goal doesn't negate the power play. Okay, hold on. USA Hockey has that rule implemented for my kid. When her team's on the penalty kill, they can't ice the puck. If they ice
what
the
happens?
puck,
They get another penalty.
No, face-off comes back to the zone, just like icing.
I
You
don't
ice
think
the
they
puck out
care.
of the penalty kill,
but then
you're creating an end-zone face-off. Yeah.
You just
That's
leave
what they do
icing.
with
I
USA
like
Hockey.
that.
But now
USA
you're
Hockey
asking the
does that.
penalty killers to try and get all the way to center ice against the
Yeah.
5-on-4.
Yeah.
All right,
Reason
you're
scoring
set.
that.
Well, all
I
right.
like
Well, if
that.
you want to see power
get more
plays,
goals.
click at 70%. Then that's
I
what
like
you do.
that. I like
All right, if you want more goals, that's fine. Because you'll have.
Because then the best penalty kills, the ones who actually can kill a penalty and exit the zone with the puck cleanly, they'll be rewarded. And the teams who rely on just either luck or whatever to just dump the puck out, that won't. You'll get more goals. Like it's not going to impact it that much. You're not going to have a team clicking at 70% of the power play. You might get teams. Might see a 5%
50.
increase at some points, but
I think you get a 50 because you can get power plays that are good right now with how lethal they are, and they're at 30%. You're saying now the other team cannot ice it without already still being more tired.
Teams,
no, that start
Don't
going
take
up
the
to
penalty in the
50.
first place.
Those teams who are
Don't
good
take the
enough
penalty.
to be at that percentage anyway, most teams, when they're penalty killing, are getting a chance to even exit the zone. They're either scoring within the first possession that they have or the second possession that they have. Like, it's not going to change as much as you think it is. I think it would be like 5%
Well, what happens if they
increase
do
on
that and then they change the offsides?
Yeah,
That means that
Yeah,
now it
That's
gets
tough.
even more confusing.
yeah.
All right, so the second part of that is the 2-minute major. They got rid of that because the Montreal Canadiens kept scoring a shit ton on their power plays back in the day. So they made it where someone scores, the penalty's over. So by saying 2-minute major means penalty ends when it ends. You commit a 2-minute infraction, you're in the box for 2 minutes.
No.
Doesn't matter how many times the other team scores. I also like that.
No, I don't like it. Well, I get the only reason initially my first thought is that if that happens, someone's going to take a liberty on someone because they go like, all right, well, I can maybe injure that dude. All I got to do is my team's just got to bail out for 2 minutes and I'm back in the game and that guy's gone. Now, if it's egregious, I understand they'll do a 10-minute or a game misconduct.
You missed the context of that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's considered a major at 2 minutes. I'm saying that it's called like a major, meaning there still is the range between 2, 4, and 5, 10.
They can
But
just score
the
as
power
it
play
doesn't
lasts for the full 2 minutes no matter what, for every penalty. Interference, high stick, slash, any of those, cross-check, doesn't matter. Tripping is all, for the full 2 minutes you sit in the box, and your team has to kill the full 2-minute penalty.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like that. I don't like that too
No,
much.
why not? Well, what's your objection?
I don't know. I feel like 5-minute majors already are pretty tough. The fact that they don't end, and I kind of agree with it. Like a major, the severity of it, like you're getting a 5 and it doesn't end because of how severe it is. I just feel like, it's not the worst rule in the world to have it happen. I think it makes sense. Like it's a power play. If you get scored on, then
I can understand it. Like someone like you're going to try and go for the puck, and then the dude steps on your stick. Now you just screwed your team over for a full 2 minutes on something that really, more accidental than anything.
Yeah,
and it seems more severe.
Out of the game, like guys who do
I still think
like
like
a lot, like
poke
stupid
checking.
penalties, like Nick Ritchie, they're not going to be guys are going to
tolerate it.
You're not going to tolerate it as much as you do now because Now you're actually screwed for an entire 2 minutes. It's not just one goal it could cost you multiple goals if it comes down to it. Like I don't think it's the worst rule. I'm just not maybe a fan of changing the minor away.
Let's get to his view on video replay. We already talked about that a lot. So I'll go to the point because he kind of mixed in a little bit of what we all talked about, which is putting a 60-second time limit on it. You have 1 minute to figure it out. That way, if it's egregious, you see it, it's done. If you're splitting hairs, leave it alone. And the NHL's already kind of said that. The NHL said, only call a goal back or only make that judgment call if it's right there and in your face. You don't need to dissect the play. 60 seconds, I like it. And then the other part of it, he says, you give the coaches each 2 challenges. Lose a timeout in the first one, 2-minute penalty in the second, with some leeway for automatic review. I like that too. And then here's the one that kind of wraps it all up in a bow for me that I really like is put a 5th official in the sky, essentially, right? One up top that can see the play from up top and call it like,
goalie.
No. That was
former goalie.
Definitely an issue. No, get rid of the interference play.
Oh my God, a goalie needs to be up there, eye in the sky, telling the other guys, "Hey."
Isn't that what Toronto is supposed to be right now with the review center? They're supposed to be the eye in the sky. That is what. Basically, they just have to say that they're allowed to look at it at any point, and something like the hand pass to San Jose would have never happened.
No, because I think it also makes sense. I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I think that Toronto, what they do is like, did the puck cross the line? Let's go down and say, hey, there's something egregious. Hey, they were totally offsides. Then they call down. The ticky-tacky things, they kind of stay out of there unless the coach challenges, and then they get on the phone with Toronto to talk about the play, move through it. I feel if they have someone in-house, another former ref, that has an eye in the sky versus, the 2 refs that are down there, and the NHL has changed so much, and it's so much quicker. Literally, an obvious hand pass got missed by 2 seasoned referees. If you can have someone back up that can see that, can actually see a video monitor of what's going on or do their own replay, they can call down and have a ref-to-ref conversation, and that's maybe a little bit more influential than, guy in Toronto going like, I don't know.
What I'm kind of saying then is instead of just having those guys in arena, just have somebody who's tasked with watching that game in the video replay room in Toronto and is able to look at the replays, and if something like that comes
same
up,
thing.
We're splitting hairs. You don't have to have them in arena. You can just have them.
They have to be in the arena.
Yeah, you just have them all in the same. Like one person is just tasked with watching that game to catch what the referees miss on the ice. I'm fine with that because then something like a situation like that doesn't happen.
But the only thing I would say is if they're in the arena, they're literally watching the game, and then when a goal happens, and then they can look at video. Whereas everyone else has a broadcast view, so they can only see what the broadcast is kind of doing and maybe other cameras. If someone's in there and a former ref, they get a different vantage point. They go like, dude, that guy, obviously over here, the refs were looking over here. I can see that. And it's their mind of seeing what's going on from a different perspective where they can call directly down. It's not Toronto looking at a broadcast. Rewind it real quick. I need to see this. And we only have 60 seconds to do it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
My opinion.
So, and then I'm going to end on one of these because the other ones get into some deep stuff like luxury tax and like hiring capabilities of teams. I don't want to get into that. But the last one, I'll end on his number 11, which is lowering the UFA age. Right now, it's at 27?
I think so.
Is the UFA age?
I thought they stopped at 25.
I don't think. No, it's not 25.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 27.
So you are owned by a team. If you get drafted at 18.
Which
all the way until you're 27 years old. They own your rights. By lowering that, you also make
24.
I would say 23. Give them. You own the first 5 years. Fine. You draft them. You get 5 years to develop them. Then you're getting younger players who are really good, who get to pick where they go. If your team sucks, you don't have this situation like Connor McDavid. I mean, how much does he regret that contract? He has to. There's no way he's just like.
Well,
hell yeah, man!
He might be sad until he looks at his bank account.
What's the problem you get into at that point? If you're a player, you finish your entry level, and then you're gonna get guys who maybe don't want to be there or going to sign 2-year deals if they can, and then just dip out when those tiers are up because they're UFA. Right now, guys, since it's 27, they still have 6 or 7 years until UFA, so they sign those long-term deals.
27 or 7 seasons is the rule. So
Yeah,
25.
Exactly. So you could do it at 25.
If you play
started at 18
straight seasons.
Yeah. But that's why you get guys right now.
But
like,
if you're
they sign
you're
the
an
long-term
exceptional
deals because they have to, because they're going to be there no matter what, unless they get traded because they'd be RFA.
and if they're an exceptional, exceptional talent, then they're starting at 18, and by 25, if they realize the team that they're on isn't going anywhere, I've been here for 7 years, and from what I've seen, we're not going in the right direction. Edmonton, I'm going to go somewhere else, and I can do that at 25. So I don't, as long as it's been 7 years,
it screws
23.
over. It screws over teams who are trying to rebuild over a process, and maybe they screw things up the first time. I know that's on them, but I think 25 is as low as I go. I think 23.
I could agree with 25. I think
23. I think is too way
low. Too long.
You'll get players pulling in Erik Lundestrom in a sense where they're trying to dictate where they can go, and then after their ELC,
they may not sign that initial contract.
Yeah, they'll sign. Well, they sign an ELC, and then they, the only way they're gonna
refuse to play.
They're gonna play sign a 2-year deal, and then dip out when they're 23 and get out of there, right? Like that won't happen all the time, but you invite situations like that to happen. At least if you leave it at 25 out of an ELC, if they sign it at 18, they have to at least sign a 4 or 5 year deal before they hit UFA. That gives the team who drafted them time to at least say, hey, like we're gonna try and do something in these 4 or 5 years.
Here's our model, and we needed you for this to make it happen.
Yeah, 27 I think is a little bit unfair right now. Anyway, that's like
that's up there. But if they're a really good player, they're playing far earlier, which means they're more eligible, earlier than 27.
Yeah.
Let's get to our Blues Bruins Stanley Cup final to cap the show off here a bit.
Blues Clues.
I'm pretty sure we're all in the same boat that we are rooting for the Blues. We're not rooting for Boston, right? Are you really rooting for Boston? Are you really rooting for Boston, Jason? Are you really?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No. My heart is Blues. My mind is logical.
Why? Why do you think the Bruins are going to win?
Now,
so Jason,
let me preface this with how great they were playing from when they changed the coach and they got Bennington in, and all of a sudden they were just clicking. My biggest thing when we were talking about the first round was like, they're hot. And when you get into the playoffs, if you are hot, you can go really, really far. Even if you're not necessarily the greatest team, at this day and age, you just have to have the momentum to do it. And they've done an amazing job. I picked them to go to conference finals. I didn't pick them to play San Jose, and I think I picked them to lose. I don't know who I thought they lost to. But anyways, so it's just something. I didn't even have San Jose in the conference final, so that tells you how much I know. But so for me, Bennington has not been over the top amazing. St. Louis, even though they had an amazing last game, and the team's good, the team is great. I have a feeling Boston has had I won't say easier route, but I feel that they're more seasoned, more ready to go, and I feel that Rask is a better goalie than Bennington is.
Oh, yes.
So there's that, one. Two, I think Boston has more weapons to push against Bennington, and St. Louis doesn't necessarily have enough that's going to push against Boston where they're going to outscore them. I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. Boston's going to have its struggles. They're not going to win every game, but I can see Boston having more of that experience further in. I think St. Louis falls just a little bit short, which I don't like. I want St. Louis to win.
So Boston in 6 is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Listen, I would say Boston I wouldn't even dance around it. They've definitely had the easier route to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. They missed out on having to play Tampa Bay and potentially have to play the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Washington.
Why they're not that good?
Yeah, or Washington. I mean, like, it was Carolina and Columbus who they faced, and the Leafs, who are a very good team, and you could see that it went to 7 games, and the Leafs lost at home. It's hard to play Boston at home. I know they have home ice advantage in the finals, but this is, I think, the hardest team they've had to face by a mile. I think the Blues are a lot better than the Leafs in all facets of their game, and here the Blues having to go past Winnipeg, who is a juggernaut, and having to go past San Jose was a very good team. They just weren't getting good goaltending, but San Jose is a very good team. And even Dallas, who is getting the best goaltending in the playoffs and getting some production from their top players. Like, the Blues have had a harder route to go, And I think they are the better team. I think the Bruins have an edge in goaltending and consistency, and having Tuukka Rask and how good he's been, and also having that secondary option in Jaromír Jágr if things go wrong. And like you said, Binnington hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been great. But from there on, I think, obviously the Bruins have that top line with Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand, which it's almost impossible to shut those guys down. But depth is not, it's not like there's no non-existent depth. They do have depth players that do very well in Boston. But I think when you look at the Blues, what we said from the start of the season is one of the deepest teams in the league with some of the players that they have, and guys like Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou if he's able to play, and
Jaden Schwartz has been a beast.
Jaden Schwartz has been a beast, but like at the bottom part of the lineup too, they've got a lot of very good players, and Vladimir Tarasenko is just starting to wake up in these playoffs, and if he can wake up and get things going, that takes this team to a whole nother level. We said that at the beginning of the San Jose series, and but it looks like he is, and he has, so he has to obviously continue that.
It's Martin Jones.
Yeah, but
if you're gonna throw that in there, look at the teams. I mean, come on. Okay, cool. Peter Mrazek and Curtis McElhinney suck, dude. Come on.
I mean, look at who the Blues had to play goaltending wise in the first 2 rounds. They had to go against Hellebuck, and they had to go against Ben Bishop, who is the best goaltender in the league this year and in the playoffs as well. Nobody's going to score. It's a relatively low-scoring series anyway. The only guy who's been able to consistently go for the Blues has been Jaden Schwartz. And then on the blue line, it's better than the Bruins. The Bruins have some good players, but Pietrangelo is the best out of any of the two blue lines. And then you could argue that Parayko is second best on there. Maybe Charlie McAvoy. Definitely not Zdeno Chara at his age. He's still playing well. But
a good player.
Yeah, but I think I have St. Louis winning this. I think it's in 6 or 7. And it all comes down to how effective not only that top line is for the Bruins, but their power play, because it's been unbelievable in these playoffs. You have to kind of tone that down
against
a bit.
The Hurricanes and Columbus, sure.
But still, it was good in the regular season too, because that top unit is Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand. It's the best line in the NHL, and then Jordan Binnington is going to be huge. He has to play well. In this series.
That's the key to me in this series. If Jordan Binnington
goaltending,
plays,
you like goaltending in this series?
I don't. What I'm saying is Tuukka Rask is walking in here with like a .940 save percentage in these playoffs, something around that. Binnington's at a .914 these playoffs. Hasn't exactly been spectacular, but has taken down tougher opponents. And I don't have any fear at all if I'm St. Louis walking into this series. Boston's had they are tied for the longest layoff in between a conference final and a Stanley Cup final back to the Anaheim Ducks, Mighty Ducks at that point, in the 2003 Stanley Cup, which they lost in 7 games lacklusterly against the Marty Brodeur, New Jersey
lackluster.
7 games.
You call it game 6
3-0 shutout. Jeff Friesen.
You mean game 7 was lackluster? I thought you meant the series going 7.
Yeah, the series was great. They just keeled over and died in 7.
Game 6 was
so
just like the greatest moment in Ducks history for most fans.
It's so looking at this series. It's easy to go, the Bruins are rolling. They're doing great. Tukes is playing awesome, and they swept probably the worst team in the playoffs, and
beat the best team in the playoffs.
The most boring series possible was Boston and Hurricanes. Was the most boring series I've seen this playoffs. Unwatchable. The Hurricanes died after the first period in game 1.
Those are your boys. You picked them to win, right? I'm the one who picked Boston to come out. I didn't even pick them in. I think I picked them in 7, and they did it in 4.
That just goes to show you, right? Boston has all the
that you don't know how to pick. Yes.
Clearly nobody did. No one thought the Hurricanes would go into the conference final.
Listen, I picked the Hurricanes because I didn't want to pick the Bruins because I didn't want them to go through. But I think we all said we all think the Bruins are going to win, but we don't want them to.
I said that with every series with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's why I put them at 7 in every series. Yeah. Because it's like, I want them to win. I don't want to see a repeat guy. And now I hate Boston so much. I hope the Blues win.
I think it's a shroud. It's clouding your better judgment.
Blues
in 5.
This is over in 5 games. They win 1 in Beantown, and that's it.
The Blues are a very good road team, but I don't think. I think 5 is
insane.
That's tough. Like you're not giving. I don't think you're giving the Bruins enough credit for. Yes, they had an easier run, but they are a very good team.
Brad Marchand.
No.
Somebody. He's gonna lick someone.
They were the second best team in the Eastern.
Step on a stick.
Right? The Bruins were the second best team in the Eastern Conference, were they not? one of the best top 5 teams.
Second best team in the NHL. I think they tied.
And the St. Louis Blues have been the best team in the second half, period, across the NHL.
But I mean, you got to give some credit to the Bruins for being a good team. Maybe the Blues win in 5. They are a very good road team. They are starting to get hot. They should have been one of the best teams in the league, but the Bruins are going to win at least 2 games here.
Let's get rid of the idea of talking about hockey for a minute. 1, their accent sucks.
Okay,
2,
agreed.
their weather back east sucks. 3, they have enough damn championships in the world between all their sports teams. They don't need another one.
Oh, that just sounds like a hater.
Don't you hate Brad Marchand? And 5, I hate Boston fans. So there's 5 good reasons not to root for the Boston Bruins.
Well, none of us are rooting for them. We're just giving them at least a shot.
Like I said at the start of this, in my heart, I want
maybe
St.
come
Louis
in for
to
1
win.
or 2.
In my mind, I can't see them getting past there. You say the long layoff. St. Louis won, 4 days ago? Well, they don't play again until... I mean, they're having almost a week off anyways.
Dude, but Boston's been off since May, okay? Since they haven't had a challenge in May. This
is the way
it's
I think
still
it goes.
May.
I think Boston wins game 1.
I think it all starts in May. Each of them have ended in May, and they all start again in May. So
I'm just saying, Boston hasn't had a challenge since the beginning of May.
I think the way this goes is Boston comes in and wins game 1. So the Blues, at take-home ice advantage, win game 2. Blues win game 3, Boston wins game 4, and then Blues come out and they win game 5, and then they win game 6. I think they have to win game 5 in Boston and win game 6 at home. That's how I think it goes. I think it ends up being Blues in 6. The Blues are.
You're breaking down game by game. I like this. I like this.
I think that's how it goes because I think it's going to come out in game 5. It's going to be tied at 2. I don't think any team is going to have a 3-1 advantage after game 4.
Unless it's the Blues.
I'm exactly on the same boat. I think but I think it's 2 in Boston. They win 1, and St. Louis is a little razzled, and they maybe try to do something a little different in game 2.
What?
Razzled dazzled.
They're not going to get razzled in this. You don't go to the Cup final and get razzled in 5.
Listen,
you're basically saying the Bruins are getting razzled if they're going to lose in 5.
No, they're just not that good. The East just isn't that good. Right. They're not that good.
They're the second best team in the NHL.
Their run wasn't that good, but yeah, they were the second best team in the league this year. They've
got nothing but confidence.
Very good forwards up front. They're a deep team up front. They have some good defense.
I would agree with you if St. Louis finished 2 days ago and they're amped and they're ready to go and they're just there and Boston's been waiting around for a week and a half trying to get back into the playoff game. They're doing scrimmages, BS or whatever to try and get them amped up.
They're talking about doing practices at nighttime. They're doing practices at nighttime now to try to get into game mode.
The Bruins had an open scrimmage.
Just do whatever you want to do, but at this point, there's no. This team's more tired. This team had less rest. At this point, every team has had the rest. They've recovered. Whatever little bumps and bruises.
Rest is rest. Bruins are done in 5.
Rest. Okay.
I got Blues in 6. I think we all have the Blues winning. I don't know why we're fighting.
No, I have Boston. I have Boston in 6.
Oh, yeah, Boston.
So we asked our Patreon members in Discord. Jimmy was the only one who popped in with a question. God bless you, Jimmy. This is not including people in chat on Twitch, but on our Discord chat. Do you see any big moves happening at all at the draft or July 1st for GMBM in Anaheim?
No.
I don't. Up in the draft, but I think he likes having 2 first-round picks. So
he's got 2 first-round picks, and he's pulling up a ton of AHL players, and in my opinion, an AHL coach. So he's pulling a lot of stuff up to move into the NHL realm, and he's going to have to refill that. And he's going to want to do that with draft picks and develop them, get them in there, the next wave behind it. He's not a bad drafter. If he does trade, it does happen at the draft. He doesn't sign big free agents. So there's a possibility, but I think his mindset is, all right, next wave. We're almost kind of we're pushing the old guys out. New guys kind of come in. We'll plug holes as we see it, but we're ready for that next thing. And that's what he's been saying for the last 2 years. So it's we're moving this way.
And the thing, too, is and maybe in different years, I would say you package that 20, I think, 28 is what they're
29
now? Or 29. So you package that 29 and 9 and try and move up to maybe 4 or 5, if 3 if you can. The problem with this year's draft is pretty much from 3 to 9, it's basically the same type of player. I think if you get later on, if after pick 6, you have it on the table, you think about it, but after pick maybe 6, 7, or even right before pick 8, if it's down to a guy you don't think is in that level, and maybe you think there's only 8 really good players. Maybe you try and package and move up with whoever has 8. I can't remember who it is, and try and move up, or maybe make a deal with somebody who has 7. If there's a guy you really want, but even then, I wouldn't include another first-round pick. I would just take the L, if you want to call it that, take whoever is at 9, and then also draft another really good player, because there's a pretty deep first round, and draft another good player at 29, where the Ducks have a good history of drafting late in the first round at getting players. I think if any deal gets done, maybe it's Adam Henrique, maybe Cam Fowler, but even now, I think
that's the biggie is Adam Henrique. Even Eric Stevens talked about it.
You guys are talking about it.
No, Eric Stevens wrote about it too. Even the possibility that he's the guy that gets moved before his no trade clause kicks in, or his limited no trade clause gets kicked in on July 1st.
Unless it's an amazing deal, and they better get a similar center, maybe younger, and something else for it.
Or they just get a prospect and
you
can't get a similar center and younger, because you'll have to pay more for that.
I know, which is why I don't think it's actually a possibility, because I think Bob Murray has actually said that this, we've signed this guy. This is our guy for the next 5 years. He's a transition because Kessler's not back. There's only Getzlaf. After that, we're looking at Sam Steele and Lundstrom. We're looking at Grant. I mean, we're looking at guys that are 3, 4. We got to have a 1, 2. And Henrique fills that number 2 because Kessler is not there this next season. So unless you're getting rid of him and you're asking Getzlaf to be center 1 and 2, you got to have something there. Unless there's a free agent signing you want to do.
Isac Lundestrom,
this is
Derek
I think the problem and why we always go back and forth on this topic with the Ducks and what they're going to do in the offseason is I think
they're rebuilding, and I think they're planning to be competitive.
I don't think they should or even try and be competitive next year. I don't think they have a good enough team. I think moving Adam Henrique now and then going out and getting a stopgap option, you can have a 1-2 of Getzlaf and Steele, and going out and getting a third-line center in free agency for 1 or 2 seasons is not going to cost you as much, and work with that cap space and whatever return you get for Adam Henrique, which should be a pretty good return, whether it's draft picks or prospects, and kickstart and kind of accelerate that rebuild even more by getting in pieces that you can start developing now. In my point,
gonna be pain next year, man.
Yeah, if you're not competitive, what's the point of keeping a player like Adam Henrique? He's only really valuable to your team if you're trying to be competitive and make the playoffs and make a run, because he's at that age where that's all he's gonna do. I don't think the Ducks are a good enough team with what they have right now to be competitive and win a Stanley Cup. Look at the 2 teams who are in the Stanley Cup final right now. The Ducks aren't even close to being as good as those teams. No. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think that they're going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think they can't miss the playoff 2 years in a row in this marketplace. I think you can keep Adam Henrique, pick up free agents that put you close to the salary cap, and then get salary cap relief off of Kessler being in long-term IR, and then maybe work things around. But I don't think you get rid of your number 1, 2, and 3 center and then hope your rookie centers, multiple, fill your 2, 3, and 4 spot. I just don't think that happens. I can't see them trying to miss this year and just calling it a wash. I think they can, as long as they get in the playoffs, they're happy. And look, it's not necessarily St. Louis was that minor team, but Carolina came in and they went to the conference finals. I mean, there's a possibility if you get into the playoffs, you can go far, and maybe that's all they're hoping for. They don't know. They don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. But if they can do enough to create buzz, they're not going to miss 2 years in a row. If they're this close to making a playoff run, that's probably what they're looking for.
The problem is you shouldn't. Your aim should not be to go 2 rounds into the playoffs. If you can,
I think it is if you're in a transition period.
But if you're in a transition period, then your main goal should be to get pieces to get to a point where you can eventually contend for a Stanley Cup. It shouldn't be to just kind of hold off and Would it not be better? Like, if the Ducks could keep Adam Henrique and somehow make a Carolina-type run to the second round, would it not be better for them in the long point to trade Adam Henrique, get good prospects or picks in return, miss the playoffs, get a higher draft pick, and get better to the point where they can maybe contend for a Stanley Cup? What does getting into the second round get them next year other than more disappointment and slowing down the rebuild because they get a lower first-round pick than they might have got if they traded Adam Henrique? Like, we should not settle for getting to the second round or just making the playoffs because this market can't handle missing the playoffs in 2 straight years. it realistically, it's better for this team next year to not make the playoffs. I don't think any of us believe they can contend for the Stanley Cup. Nowadays, you don't really see a Cinderella team win the Stanley Cup. You might see a Carolina make the conference finals. You can't just.
You might even call St. Louis a Cinderella story, though.
No, because at the beginning of the season, a lot of us picked them to either be the best team in the Western Conference or be.
And then they shit the bed and then came back.
Yeah,
it's like
so
me picking Dallas too. I always keep thinking Dallas is going to do something.
If you don't look at the season that they had, and you just at the beginning of the year you said the Stanley Cup Finals is going to be St. Louis and Boston, you'd been like, okay, that makes sense. And
the biggest shock on that team, though, Ed, is Bennington over Allen, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we didn't even have him in.
The I would not have had St. Louis in there with Allen in that,
and no Mike Yee.
And I like Allen. And Raff.
All right, do you have any questions in chat? Do we have anybody?
No, everybody tuned out about a half an hour ago. Right
when we started, I think that's when everyone tuned out.
There we go. Well, that's it then. For
Eddie's not drinking. F it.
Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us live. If you were here, if not, and you get us on the back end because it's a Memorial Day week, we still love you there. We'll talk to you guys soon. Hopefully, we'll see you guys next Saturday, June 1st at Lamppost Pizza West in Yorba Linda. We'll be posting about it this week with the exact address, time, and details. And we'll talk to you guys soon after this. We'll be back with, obviously, another show after the Stanley Cup Final. Don't forget, we're going to have Steve Kournianos, draft analyst, on this show here very shortly because he's about to get very busy with the NHL draft. He isn't already busy enough as it is.
We got to get him. Yeah, I know.
We have stuff to do, and you guys will be hearing from us very soon. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.